Call the Ellis County Public Building Commission meeting to order. Donna, please note that all three members are present. Any changes to the agenda, anyone?
Don't have any.
None. Minutes, April the 2nd.
Fine.
Fine.
They were fine.
Fine. Stand approved as presented. I didn't have any accounts payable. Did Phil?
No, sir.
Phil has none. Project manager report.
Good evening, Project Manager Philip Smith-Haynes. I do not have a report tonight that is any different than last week. I should have one next week, but I will note for the record that you did receive your monthly financials.
Any executive sessions, Phil? We will adjourn at 5:01. Thank you all for being so efficient. Tell me when you're ready, Donna. Ready again? We'll go ahead and call the Ellis County Commission meeting to order. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Donna, please note my fellow commissioners did not leave the room. Order of business, any changes?
I have none.
None. Prior minutes, March the 19th and April the 2nd.
Fine.
Fine and fine.
They're fine, yeah.
Donna, stand approved as presented. This time I'll ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda, items A through G.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the consent agenda items A through G.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. No further discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 3-0. Next item, we'll move on to issues from persons not on the order of business this evening. I believe we have one. Jerry, if you'd come up and tell us who you are and why you're here.
Good evening. I'm Jerry Sunday. I represent the Ellis County Fair Board. I just come up here to ask permission to have some of the county guys come up and do some dirt work down in the rodeo arena area. Just trying to improve the whole parking lot area down there. We have a lot of issues with trailers, overflow. We have a lot of room down there to deal with things. It's just a lot of junk and things that need to be cleared up, and which I've done. I've talked to Kurt Hoffman. He came out and we kind of discussed what we could do and what we couldn't do, or some good and bad things. So we've kind of got a plan to just expand that parking down there a little bit. And I'm just here to ask a little bit of permission for those guys to come out and do some work.
You're talking down there where you park the horse trailers and everything, I'm assuming?
Yes, it's not for the public parking. This
Sure.
is just for all the horse trailers and everything down there, so.
Mr. Bill Ring, any comment? He says thumbs up. Fellow commissioners?
As long as Bill and Kurt think they can do it, then we're happy to help you.
Okay.
We're always glad to help the fair.
Bill says thumbs up. I'm assuming we are.
I
Marcy?
think so. I know that is kind of a helter-skelter thing when they
Little
start
congestion.
parking there. Maybe we're going to have to make stalls or something.
Yes, I've got some ideas. I've got a 5-year, 10-year plan for the rodeo arena and stuff, but once I get that put together with some help from other people, then we'll kind of do some more permanent things. This is more just to clean up some of the junk and make it look a little bit more presentable down there.
Thanks for taking good care of the fairgrounds.
Sounds good, Jerry. I guess get with Bill or Kurt, and you have our blessing.
Thanks
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
coming.
very much.
Thank you.
We'll move on to the interest income update from our county treasurer. Lisa, if you'd come up, please.
Hello. I want to start by thanking you.
Would you introduce yourself
Tell
for
us who you
the
are, please.
record?
Yes, for the record, my name is Lisa Schlegel, Ellis County Treasurer. Thank you for allowing me some time today to update you on the Treasurer's interest income for 2018 so far, first quarter. Since taking office in October, I've implemented some new investment practices, one of which is to invest idle funds proactively. with the goal of making significant interest income increases for Ellis County. In the first quarter of 2018, which includes December of 2017, along with January and February, the Treasury earned over $78,000 in interest income, meaning the income earned for the first quarter has already exceeded the annual totals for each of the prior 7 years. In the handout I included, I have listed those 7-year totals there for your information. Based on the first quarter's earnings and my purposeful investment strategy, I estimate Ellis County will earn well over $250,000 in interest income alone in 2018. So good news. One of the new practices I'm implementing is seeking bids from our local banking institutions and to build partnerships between Ellis County and those banking institutions so that we can get the highest possible value for our money. And the biggest bang for our buck, basically. In addition to investing funds in local banks, I utilize the Kansas Pooled Money Investment Board, which allows me flexibility in investment for shorter-term, large investments, say, for example, during tax season, before tax monies are distributed to the community and the schools. During those several weeks when the tax monies are coming in, we get large amounts of money. I made a couple investments this past tax season of about $8 million apiece, and those yielded very good interest income for us. So during those several weeks when the tax money comes in, instead of letting it sit at 0.02%, which is the standard for our banks, I get that money into the Kansas investment pool and generate interest earnings while it is in my care. So it takes speed, it takes initiative. If I don't do it, one day you lose actual money. So I'm always like, what can we afford to invest? And what do we need to keep for our operating expenses and ongoing things that are going on in the county? And the Kansas Pooled Money Investment Board allows me flexibility because they have 1 to 89-day funds that I can invest in. So it's not like your typical bank where it's 6 months, 1.5 years, 2 years, and so forth. Forgive me also if you know this information. I don't know which things to tell and which you don't know, so I'm sharing as much as I can and what I think is interesting to you. Next thing I wanted to say is it's important to note the interest rates. For the past 5 years, they've been stagnant, ranging from 0.02 to 0.05% for Ellis County's accounts. Again, that is not 5%, and that's not 2%. That's 0.02 and 0.05, so very low. There have been no increases in interest rates affecting the money that Ellis County has earned to this point. I have secured interest income for the county because, and only because, I have taken the initiative to develop new practices of sending out bid letters and actually make investments with our idle funds. The competition generated by soliciting bids from local banking institutions got them competing to the tune of 1 to 1.4%, whereas if I wouldn't have asked, we would have left it floating standard 0.02 to 0.05. While examining Ellis County's investment potential, and this is the last thing I'll be saying tonight, if it's long, I apologize. I've also been looking into upgrading our main operating accounts. So these are the accounts where the money's coming in and going out for payroll, operating expenses, any purchases that the county needs, et cetera. And due to comparing the county's banking fees with other treasuries across Kansas for main operating accounts, I have made this a top priority to generate some bids for this main operating accounts. This winter, I sent out banking RFPs, which means requests for proposals, and I am currently examining those offers as we speak, and we'll be having meetings this week with banks who are competing for the bid to hold Ellis County's main operating accounts. My main goal is to lower our monthly banking fees, which have averaged around $6,000 annually for the last 5 years. And I also hope to lock in a higher interest rate for the funds on those accounts in addition to the investment of idle funds. So we actually will be able to earn interest on our operating accounts in addition to the investment accounts that we have. So that will be a big boon in interest income. This concludes my report of total interest income for the first quarter of 2018. And again, I wanted to thank each of you for your time. If you have questions about my investment strategy, I now welcome those. In addition to, I welcome you at any time to come by the office if you want a packet that more clearly breaks down the investment income for those times.
Barbara, Marcy, either one?
Well, that's great. I just didn't realize that you could, obviously, that's why I'm not the treasurer, but that you could invest those funds between the time that people pay them and we pay it back out, because like an escrow account, you can't do that. So that's good. So is your quarter different than ours? December, January, and February, are you in a different?
We just called that the first quarter, like the first, I guess.
Okay, okay, I just
It
wondered
really
if
kind
it
of
was
depends.
different, that's all, that just.
We're just going with the year, like
Yeah.
December, January, February, and that doesn't really post till March. So to make it as simple as possible, it earns interest every day. So I could add in, what did it earn the day that I.
Right, no, I just
did
was
this
curious
number.
as to that.
Anything else?
My question was, so then in 2017, that actually has some of the
Prior
December.
year. December of the prior year in it.
Yeah, December of 17. Okay, so is that in that year or is it in the next one?
It's, the way I've calculated it, December's interest doesn't post until January, so that's why I included
So
it
it would
this
be in
way,
the
so that you
January
could-
one.
Yeah.
So you didn't add December's into 2017, is what she's asking.
That's correct.
Okay.
I guess I only have one question, just because I don't know Lisa, so forgive me. I mean, through your state treasurers association and everything, I mean, I'm sure this is perfectly legal, right?
It is, yes. I have
I mean,
examined
far
the
as just-
statutes thoroughly. I'm not allowed to make
Well,
investments,
I
say,
realize that,
with-
but I was just wondering, I thought, this is kind of an outstanding number, and I just wanted to make sure we're
Right.
allowed to
We're-
switch all this
Absolutely,
money
we are.
overnight and everything like this and back and
That-
forth. This
that-
is a legit deal.
It is very legit.
Because I've never
The
seen it like that
investment-
before, okay?
The
That's why
Kansas
I'm asking.
investment pool sounds more like a sweep account.
The Kansas investment pool is made specifically for county governments, local governments, state governments, so that they can play with that money in a safe way that's secured fully and that allows for that flexibility of time. Like you'll see, I just got the Kansas Register, and it publishes the pooled money investment board rates for the week, because they change weekly, and they're starting to go up. So what I did want to add, that while interest rates increasing have not affected this number that you see here, they will, that's why I project, my calculation was actually about $340,000 in interest income for 2018, but just to be conservative, I wanted to say $250,000, because interest rates are going up just this week, and that pooled money investment
So we're aware
rate
of
is
that.
2.28% for a 2-year. So they're going up, which is good news for people who have money and want to invest, or counties that have money and want to invest it and get some extra income that way.
So if I understand you correctly, that was Darren. Might have gone a fire in. But, so like if you get a large sum of money in today, basically you're investing it tomorrow? Is that what you're doing or not?
If I can, yes.
If you can. And then you
If
can,
it's safe, if I don't think that we're going to need those funds for something else, or if somebody hasn't said, we've got an expense coming up, there are some treasurers that cut it very close in terms of hundreds of thousands of dollars, and they'll invest it, and then somebody might come and say, well, I need this money. I don't do that yet. I might do that when I'm more seasoned, but as of now, I'm keeping it, playing it very safe.
so if we need that money back that you invested tomorrow, if we need it back in like 10 days, we can get it back or not?
Yes.
Right away if we need it?
Yes.
Okay.
I won't make investments. I won't tie in all our money to a 2-year CD, if that's what you're asking.
But I was thinking 6 months in the back of my mind. That's what I'm thinking, well.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you're working with Phil on this. I just wanted to make sure we're all on the same page. Because I'd never seen it like this before, Lisa, is why I'm asking, so.
It's just one of my priorities, so get used to it.
This is a very good report. Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. Thank you, all
And
of you.
thanks for coming to the meeting, we haven't
Yes,
seen
thank
you,
you.
so we
Absolutely.
appreciate you.
You're welcome.
Yeah,
you
we
being
appreciate
here.
your input very much.
Appreciate it very much. Again, thank you for coming.
Keep us posted. Good news
do.
is always welcome.
And I'll probably come back in the summer too, to do another quarter of interest and then tell you about our budget, treasurer's office budget, so you'll see more of me.
Okay.
Thank
Okay,
you.
good.
Thank you. I guess nobody else had any other questions, did they?
No.
Okay. We'll move on to our extension update. Rip Winkle, please.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Rip Winkle. I'm the horticultural agent down at the Extension Agency. And just want to kind of briefly give you an update of what's been going on horticulturally down at the office, or actually in Cottonwood District. Because it's warming up outside, the telephone calls are also warming up, and people coming into the office are warming up, and that's one of the main responsibilities I have, is answering phone calls and dealing with people who bring their branches and whatnot into the office. And it's, I'd say right now, the main interest points are blight tip, or tip blight, excuse me, and pine wilt, and also your weed grasses, grass weeds, excuse me. Also, I've been involved with a Master Gardener's training program, which has been down in Barton County in Great Bend. There's been 7 actual sessions, starting at the end of December, going through to the end of March. The 8th week was basically where we met together and started forming the actual group itself, going over bylaws and discussing committees of projects to be taken on. Also, I have done a number of radio spots up with Eagle that they just started being broadcast up here once every week, and then down in also the Eagle station in Barton County. I've been recording for them for the last 3 months. 4-H judging event down at Fort Hays State University occurred, and it went over really well. We had the largest group ever in the hort judging class. Had over 56 kids come through. I've been conducting a series of educational webinars for the last 4 months for the Master Gardeners here for advanced training on various issues, whether it's borers or powdery mildew or whatnot, and it's been sanctioned by KSU. I've conducted some soil sampling classes and also some fruit tree pruning classes, both in Barton County and in Ellis County. This last month, and I've started an intercultural community garden. Sorry.
Intercultural.
Yes, in Great Bend, which basically, a school down there on Washington and 12th has these raised beds that were put in years ago and have been let go to weeds, and they're raised boxes that are 55 feet by 9 feet wide. So what I did is I got permission to use them, and I want to teach people a little more modern way of gardening that is water efficient and less weeding. So we're putting drip down and weed barrier with mulch to keep the soil cool. The groups one is the migrant worker parents teacher program. That's one group.
Really?
The other group is the Master Gardeners. This is their first vegetable garden.
How many of them are there? How many of the raised beds?
There's 3 groups.
There's 3 groups.
There's 2 Hispanic groups. One is from the Academy, English as a Second Language. Then the migrant workers from that PTRC, I think that's the name of the school, and then the Master Gardeners. So I've got them all mixed up in this thing, and we'll be growing tomatoes and a lot of jalapenos and cilantro.
That's good, that's good.
Yeah.
That goes in a lot of gardens around here, so we'll all benefit
I'd like to
from
start
that.
something up like that here too. But anyways, and there's also a
Start one in
project.
my backyard,
There you go.
as long as I can pick what I need.
The Master Gardeners up here are doing a lot of things. We're kicking off their year already. They've got their backyard vegetable thing going up at the Ag Center, and we also have a project going on that we're working, it's in the play, where they're going to try to show the water effect on soil and temperature and moisture levels within, under mulch, with and without weed barrier, under gravel, with and without weed barrier, and just weed barrier and bare soil, to show which form of landscaping is more ideal to water conservation and plant.
Kind of in the
Success.
same line as a cover crop might be for.
Exactly, but this is
for a farm.
aimed more at addressing the water issue here in this place, in Hayes. So
Okay.
it'll be a fun project, I think.
Oh, yeah.
And that's just one amongst a number of other projects the master gardeners are doing here. So
Very good.
that's kind of a quick roundabout of what I've been doing, so.
Okay.
Okay, when we last had an extension question from that's Linda Beach, I said, I need to know the story about your name.
Well, my name is Winkle with W-I-N-K-E-L, but all my life I was teased by either Rip Van Winkle, Bull Winkle, Perry Winkle, or Wee Willie. And by the time I got to high school, I said, this is enough. So I started going by Rip. Surprisingly, everybody quit calling me all these other names. They just say, your parents must be cruel.
I think it's kind of cute, so that.
Well, it went over well, and I like it, so it's unique.
Yeah, and it's not, Bullwinkle or,
Yeah,
Periwinkle?
that doesn't fit, and I really don't like periwinkle.
well, thank you for sharing. I appreciate that.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Have a good evening. Mr. Bill Ring, financing options on the scraper rebuild project.
Good evening, Commission. Bill Ring, Public Works Director. You should have in your packet some basic information about some finance choices on the rebuild of the scraper that you approved back at the beginning of March. As you can see, what we found, they had no interest payment, was 12 months, 12 equal pays, which would have meant we would have had to write 12 checks. A lot of paperwork involved to save no interest. And then I did speak with David Farrow, who was the one that did the creative financing when we bought the reclaimer, and he sent back, and it's attached in the packet. And after talking with the county administrator and the county treasurer about this, we do have cash, which is how we had planned on paying this. And if you look at the 3-year option, that would have been a half of a pickup truck for me.
Yeah.
So, and then the 4-year option would have been $23,000, so rather than spend, that money in interest for really no true savings.
Right.
My recommendation, staff recommendation would be that we just pay cash for it like we had originally planned.
I think that's an excellent idea, as long as we have the money and it's not squeezing any part of the budget. That's a really good idea, so.
Very good.
Bill, off the top of your head, for 2018, are you looking at any, major purchases, considering, I'm just saying, a dump truck, a grader, a loader, anything like that? Is there anything built in the budget for that?
For this year?
Yes.
I think we have a grader and a dump truck, both. Now, he also went on to explain because we had multiple phone calls just to go back and forth on this. Caterpillar does have much more creative financing on new purchases like they were able to do with the reclaimer. This is basically a large repair.
Sure.
Right.
So they did try to come up with government financing, but should we choose to do another something along the lines of either a grader, we were to buy another reclaimer or whatever, they would offer a larger selection of options and probably more conducive to financing like we did with the RM500.
Okay, that's great, good job.
Everybody in agreement to pay that of Fund
Yes.
16? Yes, yes.
That's
Very
wonderful.
good.
We don't need a motion, do we?
No,
Said no,
Okay.
because we already said we wanted to pay it.
Award of bids for the cold mix.
Item number 2, as we do every year, we put out a bid for cold mix so that we can continue doing roads with asphalt repair. We placed an RFP out. We had 2 bids come back. High Plains Sand was the winning bidder. We bid the same amount as last year, approximately 3,000 tons of mix. But what we also did was we put out 2 options to anybody that wanted to bid on it. Option A being the same mix that we used last year, and option B is a 60-40 split mix, which many other counties are using, which we are recommending we accept not just the bid from High Plains, but also using option 2. That would save us $6,000 right there.
Okay.
in material costs, and we had nothing but good things from the other counties in using that mix. So,
Excellent.
and just as a quick comparison, it was actually just pennies that the mix went up from the previous year
Really?
on the option one. So there was, we see no reason not to, one, accept the low bid from High Plains Sand, and two, go with
60/40.
the 60/40. And then we won't know the exact amount as always, because we can also save the county approximately $18,000 more dollars, but there would be some cost for us to go. That's why we bid it the way we do, that when we go pick it up. So if we have trucks that aren't real busy, we can go to the plant and save that much per ton on the pickup price.
Right. Okay. I move we accept the low bid from High Plains Sand for approximately 3,000 tons of asphalt using option 2, mix of 60% sand and 40% screenings.
And I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion, ladies? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 3-0.
I appreciate you already speaking to the other counties and finding out that this is they found that this is a good mix to use.
Well, we want to make sure that, that it's compatible with what we've been
Right.
doing, and we don't want to, on this large of a project, we don't want to be basically a guinea pig on a new product.
Well done. I'm
Anyway.
glad that you do that.
The third item this evening, we put out an RFP, much the same as we did last year, for the cold-in-place recycling. We had only one respondent to that bid, which is Coughlin Company, which is the vendor that we chose last year. Their price went up a minimal amount, pennies per square yard. We bid in the total square footage, or square yardage, we bid just a little less, but depending on how funding comes out and where we're at, we can, like we did last year, we can add on at the same price. And this is also, I think I had mentioned to you, that we also included the city of Ellis on this, because they will be doing part of Washington Street, and so we are able to incorporate them in on the bid price, even though it's a minimal amount to the project, it'll be included in the project, so they will just be direct billed for however many square yards material that they.
That's great. I'm
So
sure
it'll save the
too.
city of Ellis
A lot of
some
money.
serious dollars and get them the benefit of, cost-effective buying.
Where are you going to do all 6 miles at?
Part of the Antonino Road, we went over, we came back. We're going to do more, I believe, of 13th Street, and then we're going to work on part of 27th.
Okay.
Why was there only one bidder? Is that, this not a lot of people doing this, or? I mean, it's not your
That's-
fault.
That's a big part of it, and then there's Coughlin has an office in Kansas. There's nobody else within the 4 contiguous states that has another person.
Wow.
Well, you saw when the train, what they call it, their big train was there. I mean, that's serious dollars to put that
Right.
package together and whatnot. So they've pretty much dominated the Midwest. I mean, they do a lot of work in Nebraska, they do a lot in Oklahoma, and they do a lot in Colorado. They've got the reputation. I wouldn't want to know what it would take to open that business to go into competition with.
Okay. Well, then we can assume that you won't be doing that in the next
No.
few months? Okay.
So, anyway.
And ladies, I'd ask for a motion. Marcy, I
Yes.
think it's your turn.
I move that the commission approve the bid for cold-in-place recycling from Coughlin Company, Salina, Kansas, for approximately 84,840 square yards, and any additional roadways at the same price bid.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 3-0.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions? And as long as I'm up here, we did, the gentleman that was here,
Jerry.
right, Kurt and him met, and Kurt and I discussed it, but we felt that, proper to bring it to you, just so that you would know that we would be working for them.
I think we appreciate that, but I think we have a responsibility to help the fair.
Oh, no, absolutely.
Do
but
well,
we-
so I appreciate your making the time and taking the time to meet with them and get it done for us.
Okay,
So Bill, I'm gonna be in Wichita this week. I'm gonna go look at the scraper rebuild project.
okay,
I talked to them guys today, and I'm gonna meet them down there one day this week, and we're gonna go look at it.
okay. It's, Keith, the service representative, did stop by the office last week. He had some other things he was doing in the shop, and he did bring more pictures and whatnot, so it's moving right along. So they don't see any time
Are you
constraints.
looking at really racy pictures, huh? You know, of graders being redone.
Ask him about his frog.
In the components of the scrape, the large area that takes the dirt in is called the bowl. The part underneath the bowl, where the blade is, the scrape blade is actually attached, is conveniently called, because if you were to lay it down and do an aerial shot, it looks like a frog.
Okay.
Okay.
The frog had some
Racy
stress.
pictures of frogs.
Well, you don't want to see those, but the frog has some stress cracks in it, and it needs to be repaired. But because this was an all-inclusive bid, Foley will be repairing that, so we have no cost involved. So that's better. And it was something that you couldn't see without disassembling the machine. So it's good for us, and we won't have an issue down the road with that, because they'll weld it and then put it back together properly. So that saves us a bunch of
Something
money.
right.
That's great. That's wonderful.
Sounds good.
Sounds very good.
Thanks again, Bill.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Move on to our fire protection rating. No, we aren't either. We're gonna move on to fire department grants first. Sorry, Darren. Jumping the gun on you.
It's pushing them along the agenda.
Grants and donations. We want to hear about that, then we can hear about how we got ratings.
Darren Myers, Director of Fire and Emergency Management. First, just want to discuss some grants that we've accepted over the last couple weeks. We've been holding for the meeting tonight. One has to deal with the Midwest Energy Grant for $1,000 that we applied for a couple weeks ago. We were planning on using that to replace some pagers within Ellis County. It's how the firefighters carry on their hips. That's how they're notified of a fire. Second, the Equity Bank here in Hayes, in coordination also with the Equity Bank over in Ellis, has done a fundraiser, so that way they would have donations and they would match whenever a citizen would come in and open an account. They would raise money and put it together in a pot. We don't have the final figures on that. We're only expecting it to be a couple $100, but I figured since we were here talking about some of these others, I would at least
As
put
my
it in
dad
here
said,
now
it's
so we
better
don't have to
than
do
a
it again.
kick in the shins. So,
And then we also received a reimbursement last year from the March 6th and 7th fires throughout the state, where different counties that we assisted or provided assistance to, they were awarded the FMAG, which is the Fire Management Assistant Grant, and our expenses while we were down there were eligible expenses. So we got reimbursement from the city of Stockton over the last week. So
where is the
With-
fire management assistant grant? Where is that?
so it's
What is that, I should say? I mean, where is it located? How do you,
very
state grant?
you have to hit certain criteria to be acceptable or accepted into it, and you have to be almost positive that you will be awarded, otherwise you will have to appeal it, and you'll have possibly up to 30 days before you can actually be accepted. But to be awarded the FMAG, the incident commander or the local emergency manager has to request through the state emergency operations center to be considered for an FMAG. If the criteria is met, which has to be that the fire is actively burning, it's not under control, it has to be leading to a populated area, like the one on March 6th here in Hayes, heading right towards Hayes. A lot of those criteria have to be met. You make the request while the fire is burning, it gets approved at the state level, and it goes all the way up to the President of the United States to sign the document to grant the funds.
Wow.
A lot of these funds were held last year because of the hurricane down in Houston, where they had all the cleanup and everything going down there. So as you can just imagine, with that many steps going through the process, it takes a lot of stamps and
time.
signatures and approvals to get it approved and back to us. So last year, I believe we had, out of the 6 FMAGs, I believe, that were in the state of Kansas. We had sent 6, we'd sent 4 fire crews to 4 different of the locations. They were in Ness County, down in Reno County, Russell and Ellsworth County, and then up to Rooks County. So we helped out quite a bit last year.
Good deal. Thank you very much.
Good job.
And then the only 2 grants that we have that are out there yet, well, one would be an AFG grant. We're trying to supplement the grant that we got earlier this year from the Dane G. Hansen Foundation for the SCBA, our breathing apparatus fill station. We're trying to supplement that grant so we don't have to come out, money out of our funds, out of the fire fund to pay for that. And so hopefully we should be hearing something back with that, but it's probably going to take a couple months because it's a federal grant. And as well, I'm sure the commission is aware, we'd got the joint partnership with the city of Hayes, the $270,000 Dane G. Hansen grant for the training facility. So a lot of good news in all the grants and reimbursements world for the fire departments.
Keep up the good work.
No kidding.
So with that, I guess I would just ask for the approval to accept all these funds and be able to reuse them.
Yes, please accept
Yes.
more.
I didn't think you'd say no.
Please find more.
That grant or donation you got from Mike and Tanya Murphy over at Gorham, was that just a donation because of you guys were helping with the fire? Was that like a
Correct.
grant too, or what was that?
That was
It's a
it was the
donation.
day after Thanksgiving last year.
Yeah.
They donated both to the city of Victoria, or the Company 4 in Victoria and Catherine. And then Dryling Pump and Supply over there also donated some money, and then we used that to purchase respirators for the firefighters. And since then, we've, Company 5 had a fundraiser for their Fireman's Ball, and that's what they're going to use to purchase all of their firefighters with that, so.
Good deal.
done.
Thanks
purchase
again.
them.
Fire protection, is that what you're ready for?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Tell us some more good news.
So I tried to keep this within 2 pages, but I think it's just a little bit too exciting for me to narrow it down. And I also sent an email to the commission as well. Wasn't
Got
any
that.
shorter, but like I say, it's exciting news for the fire department, for any fire department, for that matter. But the Ellis County Fire Department was raided at the end of December, and it took us about 3 days to go out through the cities of Hayes, Ellis, Victoria, surrounding Hayes, Ellis, Victoria, and Shinshin, to look at how our public protection classification scores were and how they're been reevaluated. The biggest thing when you look at how we were evaluated, they don't look at how we respond, how fast we get there and such, how well we pull the hose off the truck and how far we can squirt the water and such. It's a lot more of the administrative details that go on with the fire department. It's how it's organized, how effectively and efficiently you're using your resources, and how well you're working interdepartmentally. And between the city of Ellis and Victoria, the city of Ellis and Company 6, the city of Victoria and Company 4, we basically treated them as one department because we basically are one department. It's just in one location, it's 2 separate locations. But with doing that, we increased all their public protection classifications in each location. We have not yet heard from Shinshin. I was hoping by the time we got this, me and Phil have discussed this and had it on hold for a couple of weeks, almost probably even a month, to wait until we had all the scores back so we can make one big announcement. But I figure with a lot of the dates coming up soon, when they actually go into effect, we better make a public statement before it gets too close. So all of the locations, as you're aware, the city of Hayes, effective April 1st, just a week ago, their scores improved from a Class 3 to a Class 2. The area surrounding Hayes, up to 1,000 feet from a fire hydrant, for instance, it would be your location where you live, all the way surrounding the city is going to improve from a Class 5 to a Class 4. And then every location from the fire station outside of that, up to 5 miles, outside of that 1,000-foot area, their classifications will increase from a Class 6 to a Class 5. The last rating that you'll see in the commission packet is for the area surrounding Hayes. It goes from a 4, 5, 10. That last 10 identification basically identifies that there's no fire protection service in that location, just because those areas are so far outside how far the fire department responds. So unless the commission or somebody award us millions and millions of dollars to build another 20 fire stations, that's an unachievable goal that we would ever eliminate that 10 rating. The city of Ellis and Victoria's, their scores for the city and up to 1,000 feet from a fire hydrant surrounding them also increased to a class 4. And then the area up to 5 miles is a class 5, and then everything after that is a class 10. Actually, the one over in Ellis, the rating went from a 7 to a 6, up to 5 miles away. So, and I won't bore you with all the numbers. What really matters is everything that we've done within the fire service over the last couple years here in Ellis County. I placed a lot of information both in the documents that I put in the commission agenda packet as well as what I emailed you about what and how we're evaluated, from what the fire department does to how the municipalities maintain and operate their water supply systems to how we operate within the communication system center downstairs in the law enforcement center. So the biggest point, I'm just going to hit one point from each of those locations, and I'll try to shut up. But the communication center, a couple things that we did in the last couple years, it helped us a lot, because if we wouldn't have done that, none of these scores would have increased. So that project gave us enough points to be able to at least maintain the same score that we did in the past, is actually how far outdated we were with the systems down there. We still have a couple big steps to move in the future to make sure that our scores start increasing, which the commission is aware that we're looking at different computer-aided dispatch systems and records management systems and the GPS location services. That's the next, I would say, the biggest downfall within our communication system infrastructure side that we need to worry about. The other is the training, the emergency dispatch protocols, procedures, continuing education requirements down in the center. With the fire department side, as you can tell, there's many different aspects within the fire department that gets evaluated, from the size of the trucks, how well they're maintained, when they're tested, how, it's not just the truck that has to get tested, the DOTs. You have to test the pump, you have to test the fire hose, you have to test the hydrant, or the ladders, you have to test the SCBAs, or breathing apparatus. You have to maintain records for all that, and you have to provide records. You have to provide records for how many people are on the department, how many training hours they get. And just for the ease of numbers, for a new firefighter to get full credit for just what they should require to be on the department, they need 240 hours of new firefighter training. If they were then to drive a fire truck, they need another 60 hours. They need hazmat hours on top of that. If you become a fire officer, you need more hours. You also have to have training at a facility, like the training facility will be giving us. So you start adding those up, it's over 300 hours per firefighter per year that they need. And with the volunteer fire department, unless we expect them to be working down there 2 nights a week for 4 hours a night, it's almost impossible to make that happen. Our Company 5 here in town, if they show up to every single training every month, they'd only get 72 hours a year. So there's limitations to what a county fire department can do within their scope of what they can expect from their volunteers to perform or commit to. Other fire department scores, deals with the types of the trucks, like I talked about, the training, and I don't want to hit everything. There's a lot of it's written down.
Darren, is that improved number, is that provided like to the local insurance companies or not?
That was the last thing I was going to discuss. The scores go into effect, which I've listed down in here, beginning April 1st for the city, June 1st and July 1st, depending on if you're in Ellis or Victoria. And I imagine if we get anything similar back from Shinshin, it's probably going to be August 1st or September 1st. So when you look at the insurance companies, each insurance company provides their premiums on different basis. Not everybody goes off ISO records. Not everybody goes off of the same date of when they recalculate their insurance premiums. When I contacted my insurance agent, he said one of the biggest jumps that you'll see within his company is going from a class 6 to a class 5, which a lot of ours just went to. But they do their insurance adjustments, premium adjustments in September. So probably depending on which company you're at, it's going to vary throughout the year. My suggestion would be that once these start taking into effect, obviously start contacting your local insurance agents to see how it's going to affect the residents. And it could be a pretty big cost savings throughout the entire Ellis County. We have over 9,900 residential structures and just about 1,800 commercial properties. That's a lot of businesses where more than probably almost 80 to 90% of those are going to be affected by these ratings in one way or another. So that's a significant amount of cost savings compared to what we're doing and how effectively and efficiently we're doing it within our operating procedures within the county fire department.
I think we should be really proud of our volunteer fire department, but I think you're leaving out the best line, I think, from what you wrote was, with the new PPC ratings, the public protection classification, these fire companies are now rated within the top 25% of all the fire departments evaluated in the country.
Yeah.
That is astounding, and you should be congratulated with the cooperation with all the different fire departments, Ellis, Victoria, Hayes. We are so fortunate and so grateful for our volunteer firefighters, and we're grateful for the job that you're doing. I have one question.
Sure.
If you have access in the county, easy access to water, will that affect it? And I'll give you an example. Mary Alice Sunrine, who is trying to do the Blue Sky Acres subdivision, she had her well set up so that you can immediately hook into it to do fire safety in that area, whether it's, Von Felt or Blue Sky. If you include those in your evaluations, will that help?
So for the purpose of the evaluation, no.
No, okay.
And that's
But for the purpose of fire safety,
correct.
it's a big help,
When
yeah.
we have those locations, especially when we're in the farther north part of the county, we'd like to know where the farmers have the ponds or there's many different places out there that they have storage tanks where we can fill up with water. On the fires in the south part of the county here last week, we did that. But when they look at the fire protection classification rating for a hauled water system, which is what the county
Right.
fire department is compared to only based off of municipal water supply within the city, the hauled water, that they build that 5-mile boundary because they figure within that 5 miles, by the time it takes you to travel that 5 miles and then fill and then do your round trip back to the fire, they build a calculation and they actually have a diagram that they say, okay, you have 3 tenders within your county. It's going to take you 5 miles to drive back. They input the fire flow calculations from the fire hydrants from those towns, and then how big your tender is, how long it's going to take you based off of that.
Okay,
And so they build that in. So not necessarily the more tenders you have is going to be better, and not necessarily the location of where the water's at. They always base it off the municipal
Fire,
water
yeah.
supply because those fire hydrants
Okay.
flow, some of them up to 1,500 gallon a minute. Most of those residential, that would take less than about 2.5 minutes to fill a tanker. If we go to a lot of these residential ponds where we either have to draft water or they have a small pump, it could take up to 30 minutes to fill a tanker.
okay,
So that's why they say when you go back to a hauled water system, it's always faster to go back into town within those 5 miles because the flow and the amount of water
speed
that
at which you can fill the
Correct.
water tanks, okay?
You can also shoot yourself in the foot by saying, yeah, we got 15 tankers, but then when they put 15 tankers into this 5-mile road trip, it actually takes them and stages them and says, well, you're going to have 5 tankers sitting there waiting. They're not doing anything while they're waiting for the other ones to fill. So
Right.
it's a very detailed,
Situation.
Okay.
how they fill all that out.
Job,
The main thing from here is to move forward. I've listed some improvements in there. It's just for us to be able to maintain this score, continue with our replacement programs, continue with our support for our volunteer firefighters, giving them what they need as we can. and keep our volunteer forces up. You know, if the main thing is we can have the nicest equipment in the world, the nicest fire stations in the world, the nicest bunker gear, but if we have nobody to put in them,
Right.
Doesn't matter.
it's never going to
We've
work.
got a great bank of
And they're all
volunteers.
volunteers.
We do pay them the stipend, but
Thank you.
they spend a lot of time.
And you're always looking for volunteers too, right?
Correct. We're at a point right now, we have about 86 volunteer firefighters throughout the county, throughout the 6 different
Wonderful.
companies. We've put on some new firefighters, we're trying to get them up to snuff. You know, there's no way we're going to get them up to 240 to 300 hours within a year. It takes
Yes.
quite a few years to be able to get them so that they feel adequately trained and comfortable to be in some of those situations. It's a lot of work.
Thank you again.
Okay.
Thank
If you have
you.
any questions regarding that, or if the commission would like to see the paperwork that they send back to us, let me know. I didn't want to put it in the packet. Your packet would be
Killing another
300-400 pages
tree.
long.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
Darren. Commission budget for 2019, County Administrator.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, County Administrator Philip Smith Haynes. So, after the discussion about all the good things that are happening, let's talk about what good things could be happening next year with the commission. So, we are in the process right now, departments, of developing budget requests, which will be coming to my office in early May. One of the offices that needs a budget developed is, of course, the commission. And the budgets consists of 2 pieces, capital budgets and operating budgets. So you do have 2 attachments that I have provided for the commission. As of now, I don't foresee any need for capital expenditure for the commission over the next 5-year period. The next thing that we would be looking at would be a replacement of the audiovisual system here in the commission chambers, hoping that can go out somewhere past 2023. And then in terms of the operating budget, I have numbers listed. You'll recall that commission direction is for departments to increase their non-personnel costs by only 0.5% for 2019. So that is what I've done for your budget as well. The adjustments between line items are largely a function of the shifting around of money for a potential commission retreat again in January of next year. The only other significant increase of any magnitude is in your dues and memberships line item. That one I've bumped up just in view of the fact that we have some of those dues that continue to increase for this year. Both Kansas Association of Counties and the Northwest Kansas Planning and Development Commission both experienced increases. And if both KLPG dues and Northwest Kansas Planning dues are based in part on our assessed valuation, so hopefully we can look forward to increased dues from them in the future if our assessed valuations continue to rise. So I'd be happy to answer any questions about anything I've done there or to change it as the commission sees fit.
Ladies?
No, it just doesn't, and these are just silly questions, and not silly, but not really important, but office supplies go from 500 to 50 to 6 to 5. Employee incentives also kind of do the same thing. And as other supplies, what do we classify as other supplies?
Okay, so your office supply budget tends to vary because the three of you don't actually use a lot of pens and pencils. It's more in the neighborhood of postage and supplies, envelopes. So whenever we do like a large order of envelopes for the commission envelopes, that will significantly affect the office supply line
Okay.
for that year, and then it'll go back down if we don't need to order. Employee incentives. So what happened with that was in 2015, that expense was mainly for the movie tickets that you were buying and then reselling to employees. You did not actually do the employee awards in 2015.
That's right.
We did 2 years worth of them in 2016, but because that was such a big expense, we actually paid that out of commission contingency in 2016. So that's why you see
Okay.
virtually no expense. So the amount of around $2,000 is sort of your typical amount for the number of annual recognitions. So again, that would be for the $25 checks for employees, the plaques for employees, which will vary a little bit depending on whether they choose a plaque or not, and then anybody who retires during the year to get their retirement incentive. Other supplies is a catch-all account, but the most significant thing that's expended out of there are the little brass plaques for veterans that the commission is required by state law to purchase when we are asked for one. So those vary significantly based on the number of veterans who passed during the year and the number of requests for those that we receive.
Okay, thanks. I know it wasn't, I mean, it's certainly not, there's such a huge swing. It just was curious that I circled that.
Thank you very much. County Councilor, Mr. Jeter.
Bill Jeter, County Councilor. I have no report this evening. Thank you.
You would if you were sitting up here.
That's right.
Yes, I
Yes,
would.
I know.
We'll have to make arrangements for next month's meeting. You'll be moving. County Administrator report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, County Administrator Philip Smith Haynes. So I take it by your moving on, then that
was fine.
budget will stand approved
Yes.
as submitted. The only thing that I wanted to call your attention to this evening is, although your project manager for the PBC had no report about your PBC project, I do have a report about your County Commission building project at 2507 Canterbury. And that being that we had the final walkthrough on Friday of last week, involving myself, the architects, the contractors, and staff from health, IT, and buildings and grounds. We walked extensively through the building and have prepared a punch list, which was delivered to the contractor today by the architect, and I have signed off on the certificate of substantial completion. We should be getting keys to the building this week and
Excellent.
are on track for moving.
Great. Thank you very much.
Does that sound familiar, walking through and getting punch lists? So does it give you shivers up your spine from,
I believe we did it approximately 10 times, that punch list for that up there. About 6 times at the EMS fire station building, so,
oh,
yeah. That's a happy moment in the whole world when you get to do the punch list. You know the end is getting,
really
Closer.
close? Yeah.
so thank you for doing that, all of you. Move on to county commission reports. Barb, you can go.
I did have a phone call about the county health department, and it was specifically was asked why we want to compete with convenient care and for the clinics such as that, and we're not competing with those clinics whatsoever. I assured the caller that it was a screening position more than anything else, to be able to direct people in other that doesn't make sense. Put people in the right direction that they need to go with other clinics and doctors, and they seemed to be satisfied. So I wanted to point out that we are not competing with convenient care and first care clinics.
Thank you.
That's
Marcy?
good. I don't have any report this week.
I guess I only have maybe two things. Bill Ring, you forgot to touch on the great job Purple Wave did for your excess equipment out there. He sold his van, if I'm not mistaken, for more than we paid for it 4 years ago, I believe. Is that correct?
More than 2 years ago, but
2
yes.
years ago. Time
And
flies.
I don't have the final data from them. We're still in the pickup process. We've got a few things left out there that haven't been picked up, but staff has been cooperating with all the people. And I do have to say, Purple Wave is a great group to work with. I mean, they keep you up to speed. Anytime anything's paid off, it's instant email to everyone at the shop, so things are taken care of.
I think all the stuff sold very well, correct, Darren? I think your stuff, from what I watched it till the end, and I was surprised. Yep, think 3150.
What about
whatever
the
it was.
stuff in the hallway?
They've got a few dollars.
It all sold.
That's gone? Good, okay.
Everything sold on
Excellent.
I think the
there.
only thing that didn't sell, there was a kind of a miscellaneous box of some New Holland parts.
Yeah, I did see that.
And had no bids, and it's nothing we have, so the guy that actually bought, I think he spent almost $6,000 on that New Holland tractor.
It was a bonus.
Bonus,
Actually, it was
right,
close to 7, wasn't it?
almost 7, yeah.
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 So, no, very good.
So I should have, hopefully, a report from the Kisner Group for next week that we just can give you a copy of.
Yeah,
Thanks for all of you guys getting rid of excess inventory, turn it into cash for your departments.
Good.
And also, Darren, you forgot to touch on the great meeting we had last Friday, correct? Was it last Friday? You want to come up and, Darren did a recap on the big fire that was north of Catherine. There's probably, 20-plus people there for that, and surrounding
I meant to
towns
be
came
there, I
back.
apologize.
So,
We had a little bit more turnout than what I thought.
me
Had
too.
some good input on some of the citizens. Nothing was negative. Everything was just, why we do things the way we do, or some different improvements that we might be able to work within the county. And one of the biggest things that we've found out, as well as what was brought up in the meeting, was what can we do to help maintain the public or the private power poles and lines that are up there in those locations, to help maintain them better, so that way in high wind situations, they don't arc and spark and start fires. I don't know, this
It's always
Thursday and
good.
Friday, we're once again in fire weather watch for warnings on Thursday and Friday, so. But yeah, it was a good meeting, had a good turnout, and a lot of good information was shared, and we've had one with all the public safety agencies, we've had one at the LEPC meeting, which is our local emergency planning committee, and then we've had that one, so now it's just a good point now to put everything together and see what we can do to make it better the next time we have a all-day fire.
Sorry to have to miss it.
Well, you did a good job, thank you.
Yeah.
And like I say, a lot of good input from everybody, and Public Works for helping out with that also, and just all the other private companies that showed up, so.
It was, I know the press was there, but we had a lot of people on that the fire up north. There's over 60 units, not including Public Works tankers and personnel that was up there, Bill and Kurt and all of them. Russell County had over 18 fire units that they sent to help out. We had over 160 personnel between EMS, fire, and law enforcement. It was quite a scene up there.
Excellent.
If that one slide that you had that showed all the different entities that helped out, maybe sometime throw that in the commission packet, just so the fellow commissioners could see all the outside help.
I could email you the PowerPoint, would that be easier?
Good.
Yeah,
That'd
that'd
be
be great.
perfect. It was a
Thank
very good
you.
PowerPoint, and
Yeah, I might try to edit it to add some more of the other comments and concerns that we've had.
I'm sorry, I usually think editing means it's going to be shorter, you're going to add more in. Is that correct? Is that what you just said? Okay.
I'm known for.
All right, okay, all right, just let me point that one out.
also thank you, News Media, for coming to that also. Lisa, do you have anything? I see you're in the back all by yourself. Always remember, this isn't church. You don't have to sit in the back. You can sit up front. Okay.
Not
Anything else?
causing any trouble.
Executive sessions, none, I believe?
Okay.
None? We will adjourn at, come on, phone, tell me. Make it official. 6:05.